Welcome, everybody, to another episode of promoteYES. I am your host, Garrett, a.k.a. Rico, and I have my lovely friends here. I was about to call you a posse. That's probably not the right word. But anyway, this is interesting. I'm curious to see what we're going to talk about. I have some particular things I want to talk about, but I always leave a little room to see what other topics or stories we've heard throughout the week. And we will see if anything picks up. To start, I guess I will leave the room open. Guys, any interesting story? Any individual one of you have something? Music, movies, wizards, trucks, food? I don't know. I'm pandering to your interests at this point.
Well, I was telling you about this earlier, but it looks like James the Mormon is starting up his new YouTube series called Please Stop James.
Yes.
He released the first episode just yesterday.
Yeah. Watched that.
It was interesting.
Yeah, it was. That is exactly the best word to describe it. I pray for your good fortune moving forward, James. Yeah, good luck.
I'm going to keep watching. We'll see how it plays out.
I follow his stuff. I follow him on, I think both, I know Instagram, and I think on Twitter. But there's some things that I'm totally like I'm glad that I read what I read or saw what I saw. And there's other moments where okay, moving on. But anyway, that is, I'm going to keep muttering. Give me a second. Someone say something while I take a swig.
Anything.
No, but on Sunday, Comic-Con at home finished up, and I thought overall that whole week was really cool. First time I got to go to Comic-Con being at home. But it was really cool to see all the panels and the celebrities and actors, writers, all sorts of manner of creatives just be able to talk, knowing that literally everyone would be able to experience what they were talking about or whatnot, instead of just the select few people who paid for an admission ticket to go to the particular event.
So what were the highlight panels or
highlight panels? I think there was a good number. So the New Mutants, that was really interesting because they showed the first 10 minutes of the film.
Really?
Yeah.
The entire first 10 minutes?
It was the first 10 minutes, of the film. And so there was that, and so it was you were like, all right, so this is kind of a little bit of what I'm getting, and then they showed clips kind of featuring each of the characters, and they had the cast on.
Wow.
Talking about
I know so many people who are just feel so bad for that movie because I think that movie was supposed to come out in 2017, and and it's funny because the trailer genuinely scared me.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, okay, do I want to see this? Yes? Question mark. But no, I was thinking it is an X-Men movie, and the X-Men. If you go into the cartoons and comics, they have some dark turns.
There's a lot.
And so it's eventually we were going to get to this point. If we can make basically the entire DCEU dark, surely we can make something or other like this dark.
No, totally true. It was just interesting, because it in a way it kind of renewed my interest in the film, because I was kind of hit and miss with everything that's been happening with that movie. And they also talked a little bit about how with I think it was because it was first they were working on the film a little bit around the time X-Men Apocalypse came out, and so like how it changed because they were planning on making it around that time when the time period of Apocalypse, like.
I mean, it was scheduled to come out before Dark Phoenix.
Yeah,
so
like the 90s, like because the movie in Apocalypse took place in like the 90s, I think.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, and so they were planning on doing a 90s movie, but since the movie tanked so bad in Apocalypse, Fox was like, no, let's just do it in the present day and stuff, and so they had to like run through changes. But it's a really interesting panel, just from a creative perspective, if anything. So.
I kind of feel at this point, like when the creators who made Sonic the Hedgehog put in all that effort to redo all the animation, I felt like, okay, originally before the trailer was going to come out, was I going to see the movie originally? For fun? Yeah. To really want to see it, I wasn't sure. This movie, I was probably also on edge, and now I feel like I need to go see this movie, even if in the end, maybe it's not good, but we really don't know, and they're putting a lot of effort, and they just run into a lot of bad luck, and I feel like I should go see this because, one, I am a fan of this content, but also, I mean, come on, man, you gotta do something. You need, some audience just needs to go and be like, it's not just sympathy watching, but it is like, okay, like, I feel like I just should at this point. Does that make sense? Am I explaining myself?
I feel like I feel like I want to see it in like a similar and different way. Like for me, it's the last quote X-Men movie that was like solely done by Fox, and so I kind of want to see what happens. Even though, Apocalypse was, in my opinion, wasn't as bad as everyone said.
I agree.
But Dark Phoenix definitely was.
I still haven't seen it.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, don't recommend it.
That's one of those movies where I probably will watch it just randomly one day.
Yeah.
It's not one that I feel the urge to, but it's not a movie I think is on my list of never watch, which is a short list, but I mean, if I were to explain what that list was, most people would be like, yeah, you don't need to see that. Let's see. Any other panel that was on there?
I mean, there was a lot. Like they went through and like it was through so many different like mediums. Like some of it was through like the actual source, like the whole like the New Mutants themselves. But like there was some through IGN, for example, which is a very popular pop culture / gaming YouTube channel. And so they had various outlets through it. So there's just a lot. Like I know they interviewed a lot of people, and if there is content or pop culture that you were interested in, chances are there was probably some sort of panel or some sort of discussion on it.
All right.
So
interesting.
And everything.
Cool. Well, there you have it, folks. Some very, very cool inside information on a very different Comic-Con that took place this year. Everything is taking place. Oh, okay. Speaking of movies, I did watch a kind of a small video that Regal Movie Theaters made, and they talked about what they're going to do in order to bring movies back. So it's pretty much what you expect it to be as far as like interacting. You have to order beforehand if you're going to go to the concessions. Really, I guess you're not supposed to order at there. They're gonna encourage you to use the app if you want to get popcorn and soda and things like that. Pre-order things. The one thing that's interesting that they mentioned specifically was you have to wear a mask, obviously, but when you're seated in the movie theater, the only time you are not allowed, you don't have to wear a mask, is when you are eating or drinking food. And then you have to wear it again.
Everyone's going to be eating and drinking food.
Yep.
I will be slow eating, drinking.
Yes.
That way I can just be like...
That will be the one time I will be eating my popcorn very slowly. And I probably won't even eat it during the trailers. Because I probably go through half my popcorn during the trailers. Which is very not good.
And I do that too, so...
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it just happens.
Okay, well that's very interesting. Actually, on the movie note that you were just talking about, so like, do you guys remember? I don't know if you guys heard about, but like while it was like several months back, like Disney released Artemis Fowl through Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And though that movie did poorly, but Disney just announced that they'll be releasing Mulan, the live-action Mulan, through Disney Plus instead of releasing it through theater.
I did not hear that yet.
Yeah.
Was that like
and that was like planned to be like the biggest release
for Disney
this year.
Yeah.
And so that I think it's really interesting that they're releasing it through Disney Plus instead.
Do you know when? Because other movie theaters are trying to put it on. I think they're just.
From what I can tell, it's gonna be like within like a month or so. Okay.
I mean, there is going to be a lot of competition going in because if movie theaters open up in August, and then, if they, I mean, a lot of things are going to be. I mean, Tenet obviously is going to be a big thing to get through. Black Widow will be big when it comes out, I think in November. And No Time to Die is also going to be a big one. And then I don't know what else they're going to fill it up with. I mean, there's probably plenty of things. I don't know if Soul from Pixar is delayed or not.
I don't know.
Because it was originally scheduled for this time of year anyway. And they already got Onward out of the way. I mean, they released it and then quickly put it on Blu-ray and on Disney Plus. There's a lot, but I just really want to go see a movie. If you're in the Utah location also, something I've been meaning to do, the Megaplex theaters, those have opened. But they're basically 95 to 99% of the time playing classic movies. So I think that would be really cool to see maybe a classic movie I haven't seen on the big screen, but I have to keep up with that. If you're in Utah and you didn't know that, now you do. Anyway.
What do you mean by classic movies?
Let's say the Indiana Jones films, the Lord of the Rings movies, some of the Star Wars movies, Jaws, E.T., I think at one point they also played Avengers Endgame and I think the Into the Spiderverse movie. Okay. So, I mean, movies that maybe were also just popular, which probably one day are going to be considered classics anyway. I think Into the Spiderverse is going to be called a classic animation movie at one point in the future. We'll just have to see what happens with the supposed sequels or spin-offs, whatever you're going to call them, because I think they're going to be cool.
They said, as far as the Spider-Verse, like they said the animations, like for the second one's going to blow your mind. It's like going to be way, I don't know what to describe it as, but like it's going to be different, but like an improvement over the first Spider-Verse movie. And they also released like potential concept art. It's like not sure, but that Silk may be a character in the next movie. And so there was this art by one of the artists. So
Cool.
Abed.
Yes. All right, folks. So that's a lot. We have actually quite a bit of other things to talk about, but I want to kind of get into one subject that I don't want to make it too serious, but I want to acknowledge the seriousness that it has to me after we have talked about what yes factor means on the last episode. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the entertainment industry as far as leadership goes. And I'm going to try and explain it in a very diplomatic kind of way, because it could go in several other ways that I don't particularly want to take on my on this platform right here. But maybe in other conversations with other people in the future, who knows? I'm not okay with that. I'm just going to try to explain it as cleanly as possible here. So I was listening to Colin Cowherd from Fox Sports Radio, his show The Herd today, and he talked a little bit about some of the other basketball players. There's this, it's not a contest, it's a poll basically that the GMs of each team have. And they try to get an idea of who do you think you should, if you could select any player, not even on your team, any player in the entire NBA, who would it be to build your entire team around? And every year so far, it's revolved around a player that's really popular, but is not as impactful as they really are, as they really think they are. And that just it's kind of just baffling every time they think that. It's not a bad idea, it's just not a smart idea. And that just makes me wonder, like, how many of the GMs are really paying attention? And I wanted to take that into consideration into other realms of entertainment. For example, I'm just going to touch on this super quick. just because it's out there, it's really hard not to mention it. With some of the unfortunate stories and news that have taken place with Ellen DeGeneres. That as just as a story, I'm not going to go into it, but just as a story, it's just kind of sad that something like that has happened. And she is a very prominent figure. And I think, me personally, I genuinely think that she tries to be a good person. I think that there's probably some crazy stuff that maybe happens behind the scenes. Whose fault is it? I can't say. Never been there. Didn't do anything like that. But I think that there is a calling for many people to want to be able to have situations where they can look up to leadership. And I feel like there's a lot of people who are in positions, I don't really want to call it just positions of power, because a lot of people are using that and killing the phrase itself. But really they're in positions of influence. Positions where other people should be able to have moments or just influence, but for the positive side. And again, diplomatically saying this, there's a lot of ways that this stuff kind of gets taken advantage of, or people don't try to develop their own characters into being what we would hope entertainment would be. We want things to be fun. We want things to make us laugh. We want things to be odd and amazing and things like that. And we would hope that the people who are behind this content have some good intentions. Is that crazy to be able to say? No? And so, something that Colin was saying on the herd is that usually he was making a quote from some psychologists saying that your personality is basically developed at 9 years old. And I'm thinking like, dang. That doesn't mean to say that you can't develop other attributes or other traits. But I do think that makes sense. I'm pretty much the loony weirdo I was at 9 years old that I am now. I have developed a lot. There's plenty of moments where I have definitely surpassed maturity of what I was at 9 years old. And there's probably a couple of moments where I've degraded myself less than that. I'm okay with admitting that. But the point is that my personality itself, I'm kind of a carefree spirit, but deep down, I care about trying to do the right thing. I'm very sensitive to doing that. And I think I've told at least one of you guys here, like, I'm also a terrible liar. I am so bad at lying. I don't necessarily need to tell the truth. I can, keep a secret. But I am a horrible liar. I'm, really bad at making up stories. I could, I can't do this next joke. But
now I'm just thinking about national security. We played poker together, Ian. You know I can't lie.
Yes, that is true. But, I mean, in Hollywood, you make fiction all the time. And in some other places that I can't say here without being diplomatic. But, but basically, there's a moment where I feel like people need to stand up. And I don't think everybody understands the true influence that they really have, or to really understand what it means to have values, character, ethics, and all these other things that I would say are important to accomplish the yes factor. Yay! Just wanted to put that out there. Anyway, so ignore those other things. Ignore the it factors. Ignore the wow factors. Ignore the spasms. Ignore the shiny things. Build around things that are going to last. Build around things that matter. Build around things that are going to continuously pay off because they are eternal principled values. A lot of people will dispute those probably don't actually exist. I dare you to try and make an actual good case for that, because I could go on as far as 10 seconds and nail you with it, but I could also go on for eternity and still crush you with it. That mess. I'm sure that sounded boastful, but I try to mean that wholly sincerely. I think there's a higher value that can be out there, and I hope that other outlets out there, and maybe if this outlet at one point can do something like that, hopefully we can do that. There's plenty of other examples in here that we can go into, but we're going to have to go to our fake commercial break because we have plenty of other things that we need to do. So guys, let's wrap that up, and we will get on to our next topic. Yay! another fake commercial. Yay! We'll try to see if we can get these eventually. Insert something fun into this. So, I would love to be able to get into some other topics if anybody has any stories, but I have one in particular that I know that Pan Dutch over here has a lot of insight and commentary to make. Before we do that, I'm going to announce one thing I saw on the app Stardust. If you've never heard of the app Stardust, people basically make 30-second reviews of movies and episodes on TV series. I've shared this with all three of the guys in here, and I particularly enjoy it. I'm probably the one that's on it the most. But some article that I saw in there, a lot of people are talking about the future of Alex Trebek in Jeopardy. And I guess somebody asked him, who do you think you would like to have as your replacement? And he answered, Betty White. And I just thought that was genius. Not smart, but genius at the same time. I mean, can you just imagine that happening? Like, Betty White being on there? I think it would bring a smile to everyone's face. Even if she just did it for a week, just for Alex to, like, be in recovery or something like that, take some vacation time off. I think that would be hilarious. I'd be on board with that. Especially if she pulled out her character from Community and just blow darted someone or something like that. Just like, wrong answer! I would die on the floor, rolling around forever. I wouldn't even go to work the next day. I would still be laughing. All right, but we have...
now I want that.
Yes. Now I want it. Now that I explained it that way, I want that. I want that now. All right, but anyway, there is a list that I found on... well, it's an article, really, a list that was submitted by an article on the website Your EDM. They post a lot of news for electric dance music, and I particularly like that genre a lot. That is probably either my second or third most reviewed genre on my channel, I think. And just, I always have something interesting to say about it. And I looked at this list, and I like a lot that's inserted. I don't know if I can particularly critique on what the order should be, because there's plenty of it that I haven't listened to. But it's basically the top 100 albums of this genre going, from the decade. And there's just a lot to say about it. Aaron, provide us with some insight, because you're slightly more well-versed in this than I am. You got some commentary.
I mean, if it's just from the decade, like, I guess... I mean... I don't know, maybe I should have gone further past the decade, but like I do like a good chunk of these albums like I have like listened to like in full, and so like I agree, like maybe Random Access Memories because Daft Punk only makes an album like every 7 years, and so that might be the only album that qualifies to be on for the whole decade.
Well, it's also I think it's also the only EDM album that won Grammy of the album of the year for the Grammys.
Probably.
I don't know if it's the only one of that genre that's won it.
Yeah.
Possibly. I could be wrong about that. I'm not sure. But not many EDM albums even get to that nomination.
Honestly, it's true. And like EDM is such a wide field.
That is true.
It's super crazy. But like I don't know. Like I mean, I guess like Deadmau5 is on here 3 times.
Yes.
I guess he does have a ton of influence as far as this goes. I definitely feel like that some albums should be rated higher. Like Knife Party is at number 61. I mean, it's technically their only full-length album. But
yeah, that's what I was also noticing about Skrillex. Because, I mean, he also did the Jack U album, which is on there.
Technically, yeah.
But I was like thinking like, oh, well, I would have probably put a lot of his EPs higher than that, but they're EPs.
Yeah.
So.
But like speaking of Jack U, I feel like more of Diplo's like stuff like major, maybe some Major Lazer kind of stuff should have been on there, since Diplo is the other half of Jack U. But I mean, I didn't see any Millennium on here, and he's got 3 full-length albums.
Everyone's been raving about that album from last year.
I think it's Ascension.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I'll have to remember because I own that album, so I really hope I said.
Mm-hmm.
It might be Ascend. It might be Ascend. All those like have like that sound at the beginning of each of his albums. So.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I absolutely loved that his latest album. I really thought Dance would have been on here by Justice. So
The one I was going to make a commentary on, I agree with this, but I don't know. I know that you like the other one better. It's the Clarity album.
Yeah.
Because
I know Clarity.
Yeah, I know you do like it, but I know you love.
I really I love True Colors.
You love True Colors a lot more.
So I really felt that should have been on here. I was happy to see that Galantis also made it onto the list, though they're pretty close to the end of the list, but a little bit of something.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see any Dylan Francis on here.
That was pretty
really
shocking.
Weird,
He made so much noise over the last 4 or 5 years. People were praising him, and I don't want to make this as a very bad comparison, but they were basically glorifying him as the Justin Bieber of EDM because he's like, I mean, how young was he when he started?
I don't know.
Like when he got big, he was not that old. So I mean, I'm not saying that's a good example to compare. I'm just saying that's probably within that community. That's probably what the comparison would be to. Just saying it like that. No offense.
Yeah. No, it's fine. But overall, I do feel like the list is pretty fair. Within EDM lovers, you don't see a ton of the radio popular DJ and producers. I mean, there are of course the big names are on here, but
mm-hmm.
The ones that are more, I guess maybe radio friendly aren't
mm-hmm.
on here. So I feel honestly that this is pretty fair as far as curated and voted on by actual dance lovers.
Okay, that's interesting to get a commentary on. There are 3 albums on here that I did not think I was going to see. The James Blake album.
Okay.
Not because he doesn't deserve it. I just wasn't sure if that was considered EDM or not.
We were talking about earlier, such a weird line.
Yeah, he plays that line well, but it's how much of it, what percentage? Is it more than 50% EDM? That's where I'm because that's how I treat the Casey Musgraves album, Golden Hour. It is, I called it barely mostly country. It's basically 51% country, so therefore it's country. So, so there's that album. I was surprised to see FKA Twigs also kind of riding that fine line, but it kind of makes sense also. And the Toro y Moi album. I remember reviewing that album. It wasn't a bad album, but I wasn't as taken back by it, by as many other people. So, but it is also kind of farther on the list. So it's okay, it's not as glorious as maybe I'm thinking other people might make it out to be.
Honestly, yeah, there are it's a surprise to see certain artists, and for me, it was a surprise to see certain albums. I wasn't, at least when I first listened to it, I wasn't super smitten by Narrows Between Two Worlds album,
mm-hmm.
but I definitely agree that they're in the top 10, or no, it's number 11. In number 11, Welcome Reality definitely belongs there, because that, as far as my opinion goes, Welcome Reality is a masterpiece, forward and back. So.
Is that your favorite on this list?
For a Narrow?
Just out of the entire list.
Oh, out of the entire list?
Yeah. If you could choose anything on here, do you have a...
Oh, that's such a difficult... Because I love Knife Party's their album
mm-hmm.
front to back as well, and so there's the Abandonship album, but there's I don't know, there's a few albums that I really love. A Color Map of the Sun is great by Pretty Lights. Just if you've never listened to that album, it's I don't know, it's just a good, and a bunch of Tycho's mentioned a bunch of times.
Yeah, he is. So. Yeah, I just started barely getting into Tycho. I like his style. It works out really well. The one that I was very surprised on, because I'm gonna pat myself on the back here a little bit, that they have on here is the Singularity album by John Hopkins. It's number 18, so it's in the top 20. But I'm just yes, I loved that album. I was surprised how much I liked that album, and the fact that they put it on there. Rocks. Okay, that's a lot of fun commentary. maybe I'll link that list in the description below, and we'll see if any other people have some commentary on that if you so care to check it out. Guys, any other commentary or any other things that we should mention real quick for fun? Or any weird comments?
We talk about Sony. They're making turbulent waves recently.
Say what?
So
Something I'm not aware of.
So I watch a
That
lot
could
of
be a segment.
like video game stuff, well, especially, but so there's this little game called Marvel's Avengers coming out soon, and so it's a partnership between Marvel, a company you may have heard of, and Crystal Dynamics, which, if I'm using my terminology correctly, they're a subsidiary of Square Enix, who, if you don't know Square Enix, they do the Final Fantasy games, the Tomb Raider reboot games, Kingdom Hearts, a bunch of other properties. But yeah, so they've been doing this Marvel's Avengers game, and the more they show content about it, the better it looks. But they just recently announced that post a story, they were releasing 2 characters. So Hawkeye is one of them, and Spider-Man. But Spider-Man is a PlayStation exclusive. And so an entire character is exclusive to... You can only play on Sony, which, if you think about it, kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Because Sony owns the rights. But a lot of people are unhappy because they can't play an entire character for the game because they don't. They're not planning on getting.
You done messed up, Sony. You done messed up.
But
you have the right to do that. You do, but boy,
it's
Yeah,
a
that's
lot of people are
terrible.
pretty upset.
oh boy.
And the thing is also that though this is mostly kind of a singular player game, there are points apparently in the game where you can do co-op, and so that's causing an even bigger backlash because Xbox players, if they want to play together, neither of them are going to be able to play as Spider-Man.
Yep.
And so
Nobody can be Holland.
Poor guy.
So that's one thing, but the other less smaller bit of news is every now and then Sony announces their state of play, which is kind of like an update on like news that's going on specifically with Sony and PlayStation. And this last night, so state of play is happening this Thursday as of the release of this video, and they announced that there wouldn't be any big PlayStation 5 news. So a lot of people were really disappointed about that, and made a big hullabaloo about it on the internet. And so today, as of the recording of this video, they made an announcement saying that later in August they would be making an announcement with updates on the PlayStation 5. And so literally a day later, so I guess we do have an impact on what goes on. Interesting
to see. All right. Well, we need to kind of wrap this up. We've gone over a little bit, but before we do, Ryan, have we had any comments or questions pop up on this?
Let's see.
While he's looking at that, was this video not sponsored by anything?
No.
No, it wasn't sponsored by a green pen.
No, not really. I do like these pins, although we did mention that right before the video started. I get a lot of these, and they should last forever, but I use them so often that I have to buy them a lot. So yeah, this is how I
use them.
Yeah, I review all my albums using these in various colors. And I use them kind of color coordinated with the album covers, but not exclusively. So
Find anything, Ryan?
If not, then that's cool too, because we're only doing live stream in one way, basically. But that's all right. Eventually, we're going to get to a point.
Lord and Taylor, the U.S. oldest department store, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy.
Oh yeah, there's been talks about that for a while. Actually, they're closing several of their stores.
And 7-Eleven bought up Speedways?
They did do that, yeah.
Yeah. So
because I'm a weird dead retail nerd.
Yeah, so so they
Yeah, I guess you
just,
are.
Snatched up like a ton of property, like instantaneously.
We live in weird times, folks. Weird
That is
times.
true.
All right. Well, we've probably talked about a lot. We can talk about a little bit extra next time. Let me know what you thought about my first segment and just kind of trying to say this really probably more serious topic that I mentioned. If you like that, or you thought it was too weird. I'm interested in what you say about that. So comment below if you liked it. It's probably a topic that everyone likes or maybe needs to be said, but maybe you don't like it here. I don't know. So let me know what you think about that. But anyway, thank you for being here. So we will wrap up promoteYES here, and we will see you next time, I guess, as I just lean slowly down here with my hands on my chin.